See something, say something. Do you do that? If you see something wrong, somebody getting hurt, something going on in the world, and do you just like them, none of my business, or do you speak up? But one of the biggest problems among teenagers in this age is bullying. And one of the things I tell teenagers is, you see something, say something. You know, when people speak up and say, "Oh, that kid didn't deserve that," you know, how about we grow up here? When a bully finds out nobody really respects them for the way they're acting, it stops. And I want to share with you a couple of situations where I didn't speak up, and maybe let my regret move you to want to face your challenges the way I've learned from these situations, to just be the kind of person that speaks up for justice, that speaks up for what's right. I'm in a restaurant with a friend of mine, and at the table next to us is a mentally challenged young person, maybe in his 20s, 30s, something like that, and his parents. And it was around Christmas season, and they were eating dinner, and the pure joy in the young man to be having dinner with his parents was so strong. You could feel it. He was like overjoyed. And what I watched was making me sick, because they were not the least bit into talking with him. They were talking with each other about people that weren't there and things he knew nothing about. And he was still trying to be good about it. He was still smiling, even though he was being kind of shut out. It was like they were doing their duty. It's like they were, expected to do this holiday dinner. And, oh man, it was just ugly. And I was getting madder and madder to the point where I really didn't feel like eating myself. And then what happened was the check comes, they give him the check, and they leave. And I came this close to just getting up and saying to him, running out the door after him, like, what the heck is wrong with you? Can't you see how much he loves you? Can't you see how much this meant to him and the way you treated him? What's wrong with you? I didn't do it. I felt like it was stepping over a line into something that was maybe none of my business, but I didn't stick up for him, and I still regret that. I once was in a situation where I was leaving some store, and there was a homeless man up ahead sleeping out in a little storefront area, and some jocks from a local college. I could see there were jocks because they had their varsity jerseys on, and they one of them tripped on him, and the bunch of them just started kicking this homeless man. And I ran up to the scene, and they were running away. And my first thing was to take care of this, to be there for this guy. And he was scared of me. He was afraid that I was one of them, and no matter what I said, he was just frightened to death. And I should have run off right after those guys. I should have. Maybe I would have been the next one to get beat up. I shouldn't have cared. I didn't care, but I just didn't do it either. I wanted to be there for him, and they needed to be taught a lesson. And another time where I saw something but didn't say something happened on a mission trip. I was on a mission trip, brought a bunch of young people with me, and at the end of the mission trip, it was the tradition of this religious group of women that they would have a send-off the last day. And at one point in this very, spirited send-off, the sisters went up and down the line of all the volunteers and said, "You can come back." They skipped over somebody. "You can come back." Skipped over. "You can come back." And I was like, "Whoa, that's just wrong. This is supposed to be a celebration of our farewell, and to just do that." I mean, they didn't say you can't come back, but by singling out who they approved of and who they didn't, I thought that was a pretty low thing to do. I didn't say anything for a couple of reasons. One, their assessment of who had really given the most to the trip, who had been the most help, who had given the most of themselves, was pretty accurate. Yeah, I would have agreed that these guys, these particular people, were more helpful than those others. Another reason was I'm like, these are holy people. They must be doing this for a reason. But it didn't sit right with me. I didn't say nothing. Do you know that next year they did the same thing to me? That even though I was paying them, I was contributing to them for their work, tens of thousands and thousands of dollars for the work they do with the poor there, and I was volunteering. They didn't call on us the last 3 days of the trip. And when it came time for this big farewell, I said, sisters, what was that all about? Came here to help. How come no one came and got us? And they said, you don't eat enough and you're not holy enough. Well, first of all, it was kind of devastating to hear that from a group of holy women, missionaries of charity, not very charitable. And the other thing is it was like they were my connection to that country, which is where my ancestors came from, Albania. And I realized if I don't have that connection with them, I'm not coming back. And, well, most of all, I realized, whoa, the year before, they pulled this kind of a move and I didn't say anything, and then it was me. And that's the way it works in life. That you see something and you don't say something, that's going to be you eventually. Okay, so I want to encourage you to pray about, don't automatically shoot your mouth off complaining about every little thing you see that you don't think is right. Okay, but pray about it and be somebody that's willing to speak out against injustice. Okay, I've had my success stories too, but I wanted to share with you these because, I want you to know that I ain't perfect either, and we all blow it sometimes, and it matters of do we pick ourselves up and do better next time. Okay?